There are certain thoughts, the kind you don't say out loud, the kind that only show up when everything else gets quiet. Late at night, when the world slows down and there's nothing left to distract you. They don't arrive all at once. They come softly in pieces, somewhere between one heartbeat and the next. Emma Cole didn't notice the exact day it started. If someone had asked her later, she wouldn't have been able to point to a moment or a memory and say, that was it. Because it didn't begin like that. It began the way most things do at that age, small. One afternoon, Kai Dillon sat down beside her in class. There were other empty seats. He could have chosen anywhere, but he didn't. At first, it didn't mean anything. He made a comment about the assignment, something simple, half under his breath. Emma gave a small answer back, not thinking much of it. And that should have been the end of it. But the next day, he sat there again. It was subtle, easy to overlook, but something about it lingered. He wasn't loud, wasn't the kind of person who needed everyone's attention, but he had a way about him, easygoing, just enough confidence to make people feel comfortable without trying too hard. A few days later, he leaned back in his chair, glanced over at her paper and said quietly, "You think too much." It wasn't criticism, not really, more like an observation. Emma gave a small smile. "Maybe," she said. That was how it started. Not with anything important, just moments. A question here, a comment there, a shared look when something didn't make sense. It stayed small until it didn't. By the time the air turned cooler and the mornings felt just a little different, they had fallen into something that felt natural. They walked out of school together, not planned, not discussed. It just happened. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. But even the silence between them felt like it held something. There was no pressure, no expectations, no need to define anything. And maybe that's why it felt so easy. The first message came late one evening. Emma had already changed into something comfortable, her book spread out around her, the quiet of the house settling in. Her phone lit up beside her. "Did you understand that last problem?" She looked at the screen a little longer than she needed to. It was such a simple question, something anyone could have asked. And yet, it felt like more. She typed out a response, short, careful, deleted it, typed again, then finally sent something simple. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Another message came, then another. The conversation stretched longer than either of them probably expected. About the assignment at first, then other things, small things. What music they liked, what they didn't understand in class, things that didn't matter, but somehow did. That night ended the way all simple things do, quietly. But the next night, it happened again. And the night after that. It didn't take long before it became something Emma noticed, something she waited for. She didn't tell anyone, didn't say it out loud, but she found herself glancing at her phone as the evening settled in, just in case. During the day, things stayed the same. He still sat beside her, still walked with her, still spoke in that same easy, uncomplicated way. But now, there was something else, something unspoken. She started noticing the small things, the way he remembered what she had mentioned days before, the way his voice changed slightly when it was just the two of them, the way he didn't seem to look for anyone else when he walked out after school. None of it was obvious, but together it felt like something. Not defined, not explained, just understood. And maybe that's what made it feel real. Time passed the way it always does, quietly. Days blending into each other, conversations becoming routine. And somewhere in the middle of all that, Emma stopped questioning it. She didn't need to know what it was, because it felt like enough. Until the night, it didn't. The conversation had been different that night, a little deeper, a little more honest. The kind of conversation that doesn't stay on the surface. And without really planning to, without thinking it all the way through, Emma asked the question she hadn't meant to ask. So, what are we? The moment she sent it, she felt it. That quiet shift. The kind you can't take back. There was a pause. But not long enough. Her eyes stayed on the screen, her thoughts moving faster than they should have. And then his reply came. I'm just not ready for anything serious right now. Emma read it once, then again. Not ready. It wasn't harsh, wasn't dismissive. It didn't sound like rejection, but it wasn't what she had hoped for either. It just sat there, clear, and somehow final. The next day, everything looked the same. He sat beside her, walked with her, spoke to her like nothing had changed. Because to him, maybe nothing had. But to Emma, everything had shifted. Now there was a space where something had once felt certain. She understood something she hadn't before. She wasn't his girlfriend, but she wasn't just a friend either. She was somewhere in between. And that place felt a lot like just waiting. Days passed, then weeks, and Emma stayed right there. Not because she didn't understand, but because she hoped. Hope that not ready might one day turn into ready. that if she just stayed patient and stayed the same, something might change. But it didn't. What changed instead was her. She started noticing things she hadn't let herself see before. The way he canceled plans without thinking much about it. The way he disappeared for hours and came back like nothing had happened. The way everything still moved on his terms. And how she adjusted every time. Until one night, she didn't. The message came late, like it always did. "You up?" Emma looked at the screen, and for a moment, everything felt familiar. The same pattern, the same pull, but something inside her had grown quieter, clearer. Not hope, not confusion, just certain. She set the phone down and let the silence stay. The next day he noticed. Of course he did. "Everything okay?" Emma looked at him, really looked. And for the first time, she saw things exactly as they were. He hadn't changed. He was the same person he'd always been. The only difference was that she finally understood. "Yeah," she said softly. "I just think I want something different." He nodded, like he understood, like it didn't matter. And maybe, to him, it didn't. But to her, it mattered more than anything she had been waiting for. Because for the first time, she wasn't waiting anymore. She was choosing. And that choice felt quieter than she expected, but stronger too. Somewhere between heartbeats, you begin to understand that the right kind of love doesn't leave you waiting to feel chosen.